The night sky over the Galactic Coalition embassy glittered with stars that seemed closer than they should be. Varen stood on the balcony, her iridescent skin reflecting the light of Earth's moon. She adjusted her human form stabilizer, a small device that helped her appear less alien to the humans at the diplomatic reception. Her true form tall, with skin that shifted colors with her emotions, and 4 fingers on each hand, would return once she was in private quarters. Ambassador Varen, they're asking for you inside. The voice belonged to her assistant, Krell. Varen nodded. And Zyrex? Your child is with the other young ones in the supervised play area, perfectly safe. Varen felt a moment of worry, the kind that all parents feel when separated from their children. But she pushed it away. The embassy was secure. Zyrex would be fine for a few hours while she attended to her diplomatic duties. She followed Krell back into the grand hall where humans and aliens mingled. The Galactic Coalition had revealed itself to Earth just 5 years ago, and these receptions were part of the slow integration process. Humans were still getting used to the idea that they weren't alone in the universe. Ambassador, this is Senator Harris and General Lewis, said the human liaison, pointing to 2 older men in formal wear. Varen bowed slightly. It is an honor to meet you both. The senator smiled. The honor is ours. Your work on the trade agreement has been exemplary. They talked about politics and trade, careful topics that wouldn't offend either species. Varen was good at her job. As a Nilaxian diplomat, she had been chosen for this mission because of her ability to understand other cultures. Humans were fascinating to her, so emotional, so quick to form attachments, so protective of their young. In that way, they were. Not so different from NYLAXINS. An hour into the reception, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then darkness. Varen felt it immediately, a shift in the air pressure, a sound below the range of human hearing. Her skin flashed a warning purple that no one could see thanks to her stabilizer. Security protocol, she whispered to Krell. Get to the children. But before Krell could move, the emergency lights came on and a high-pitched alarm began to sound. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm, announced the human security chief over the speakers. We are experiencing a technical issue. Please stay where you are until further notice. Varen knew it was more than a technical issue. The embassy's systems were designed with redundancies. This was something else. She pushed through the crowd toward the children's area, her diplomatic poise forgotten. The hallway seemed longer than usual, the crowd thicker. When she finally reached the playroom, she found human security officers and alien guards talking in urgent tones. Where are the children? Varen demanded. A human guard turned to her. Ma'am, we've moved them to a secure location as per protocol. Take me there now. The guard hesitated, then nodded. He led her down a service corridor to a reinforced room, where most of the children sat on cushions, some crying, others looking confused. Human and alien caretakers tried to keep them calm. Varen scanned the room. Once, twice. Where is my child? Where is Zyrex? The head caretaker, a kind human woman named Olivia, approached her. Ambassador, during the evacuation, we did ahead. And indeed to hear the rest. Her skin beneath the stabilizer turned ash gray, the color of fear. Zyrex is missing. The next hours passed in a blur. Security footage showed the children being led from the playroom when the lights first flickered. In the confusion of the dark hallway, with 20 children from 6 different species, Zyrex had somehow slipped away or been taken. The last image showed her child near an emergency exit, and then nothing. Coalition security tore the embassy, apart looking for the young Nilaxian. They found nothing. We must expand the search, Varen told the security chief. My child could be anywhere on your planet by now. The chief, a massive being from the Trolloc system, looked uncomfortable. Ambassador, we have no jurisdiction outside the embassy grounds. We must involve the humans. And so, as dawn broke over the embassy, Lieutenant Frank Collins of the Earth Special Diplomatic Security Force arrived. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a serious expression. Ambassador, I understand your child is missing. I promise you, we will do everything in our power to find them. Vanrin wanted to believe him, but humans didn't understand. Xyrix wasn't just her child. As a member of the Nilaxian royal family, Xyrix carried genetic memories going back thousands of years. If humans with anti-alien sentiments had taken her child, quotes Lieutenant, Xyrix is only 8 Earth years old. My child needs special nutrients not found on your planet. Without them, she couldn't finish the sentence. Frank nodded gravely. We'll need a list of those nutrients and any other special needs. And I'll need to know if your child has any way to communicate or any tracking devices. Xyrix has basic telepathic abilities enough to send emotions to other Nilaxians, but not to humans. And yes, there is a royal identifier implant, but it seems to be disabled. We can't detect it. For 3 days, they searched. Human authorities put out alerts. Coalition members used their technology to scan the city. Nothing. On the 4th day, Vairin received a message from the Nilaxian High Command. Return to Nilax immediately. The situation has become a diplomatic liability. We cannot risk further human involvement. Vairin read the message twice. They were abandoning the search. Abandoning her child. She found Frank reviewing security footage for the 100th time. They want me to leave, she said simply. My government believes Xyrix is lost. Frank looked up from his screen. And what do you believe? I believe my child is alive. I would know if Xyrix was gone. I would feel it here. She placed a hand over her heart. Nilaxian parents and children share a bond that transcends physical distance. Frank nodded slowly. Then I suggest you disobey your orders, Ambassador. That would mean exile. If I refuse to return, I will lose my position, my status, my home. But not your child. Not if we find them. Vairin straightened her shoulders. I need to send a message to the High Command. That night, as Vairin composed her defiant response to her superiors, accepting exile to continue the search, something happened thousands of miles away. Linda Peterson walked along the beach near. Her small coastal home, the early morning fog making the world seem smaller and quieter. The tide had gone out, leaving behind seaweed, shells, and something that caught the light in a way that made Linda pause. It wasn't a shell. It wasn't driftwood. It was small, about the size of a child, and definitely not from Earth. Linda approached. Carefully, her nurse's instincts taking over when she saw the creature was injured. Its skin shifted colors even in unconsciousness, from pale blue to gray and back again. Linda had seen the news about aliens on Earth, but never one in person, and certainly never one that looked like a child. She knelt beside the small being and gently checked for signs of life. Finding a pulse faster than a human's, but steady, she made a decision that would change everything. Instead of calling authorities, Linda Peterson carefully lifted the alien child into her arms and carried it home. Linda Peterson's small beach house was not prepared for an alien visitor. She cleared off her kitchen table and gently placed the unconscious child there. Its skin shifted between pale blue and gray, sometimes flashing purple around the edges. Linda had been a trauma nurse for 15 years before moving to Bay Harbor. She had seen many strange things, but nothing like this. Okay, she whispered to herself. Think, Linda, think. The alien child was breathing, but the rhythm was off too fast, then too slow. There was a wound on its side that leaked a silvery fluid instead of blood. Linda grabbed her first aid kit and some clean towels. She cleaned the wound as gently as she could. The skin felt smooth, almost like dolphin skin, but warmer. As she worked, the child's color stabilized to a soft blue. Linda took this as a good sign. "You're going to be all right," she said, not knowing if the child could hear or understand her. "I'm going to help you." Outside, the wind picked up. Rain began to tap against the windows. Linda was glad she had found the child when she did. A storm was coming. She made a bed on her couch, using soft blankets and pillows. After moving the child there, she sat in her armchair and watched. What should she do? Call the authorities? The news had been full of stories about aliens lately, but most people were still afraid of them. What would happen to this child if she called? Linda decided to wait. At least until the child woke up. At least until she knew more. She must have dozed off because the next thing she knew, there was movement from the couch. The alien child was sitting up, eyes wide open. Those eyes were remarkable large, with no whites, just pools of silver with black centers that expanded and contracted like a cat's. The child saw Linda and pressed back against the couch. Its skin turned a deep purple. "It's okay," Linda said, softly. "You're safe here. I found you on the beach. You were hurt." The child didn't respond, but the purple color faded slightly. Linda pointed to herself. "Linda." Then she pointed to the child with a questioning look. The child hesitated, then placed a four-fingered hand on its chest. "Xyrix," came a voice that sounded like it was inside Linda's head rather than in the room. Linda gasped. "You can speak?" "In my mind?" Xyrix nodded slowly. The voice came again. "Little speak. Hard." "That's okay," Linda said, amazed. "We'll figure it out. Are you hungry? Thirsty?" Xyrix's skin rippled with yellow streaks, a new color. "Water, please." Linda went to the kitchen and returned with a glass of water. Xyrix took it with careful hands and sipped. The water seemed acceptable. "Food?" Linda asked. Images flashed in Linda's mind. Green plants, something like algae, a blue fruit she had never seen before. "I don't have those things," Linda said, "but I have some vegetables and fruits. We can try those." Over the next few hours, they discovered that Xyrix could eat cucumbers, avocados, and blueberries. The wound on the child's side was already healing, faster than any human wound would. That night, Linda made a proper bed in her spare room. As she tucked Xyrix in, the child sent her another thought. "Parent, find your parent? You want to find your parent?" Xyrix nodded, skin turning a sad shade of blue-gray. "We will," Linda promised, "but you need to rest first. Get stronger." Across the country, Veyron was now living in a small apartment near the embassy. She was no longer Ambassador Vandren, just Valgrun, an exiled Nilaxian on Earth. The Coalition had given her 3 Earth days to return home. When she refused, they stripped her of her title and diplomatic protection. Some Coalition members secretly supported her. They provided her with a modest stipend and this apartment. It was better than nothing, but it didn't help her find Xyrix. Frank Collins visited when he could. As the human in charge of the search, he had access to resources Veyron didn't. "We've expanded the search radius," he told her, sitting at her small kitchen table. "I've got contacts in police departments across the country looking for any reports of unusual children." Verine's skin, now visible without her stabilizer, turned a grateful shade of pink. "Thank you, Frank. I know you're risking much to help." Frank shrugged. "It's the right thing to do. Besides, finding your child could improve human-alien relations. My bosses are interested in that, at least." Veyron sensed there was more to his help than professional duty, but she didn't question it. She needed all eyes. "I've been feeling Something, she said hesitantly. It's faint, but sometimes I sense Xyrex is alive, somewhere far from here. That's good news, Frank said. Can you tell which direction? Varen shook her head. The connection. Isn't that specific? It's more like knowing a star exists even when clouds cover it. Frank nodded thoughtfully. We'll keep looking. Don't give up hope. Days turned into weeks. Linda and Xyrex developed a routine. In the mornings, they would walk on the beach, always in secluded areas where no one would see them. Xyrex is telepathic. Abilities grew stronger as the child recovered. They could now form complete sentences in Linda's mind. My home has 2 suns, Xyrex told her one morning. The sky is never dark. That sounds beautiful, Linda said. Do you miss it? Yes, but I miss parent more. Linda had been trying to figure out how to help Xyrex find this parent. The child had explained about the embassy, the diplomatic reception, the darkness when the lights went out. But Xyrex didn't know the name of the city where it happened. There was also the matter of a small device embedded in Xyrex's arm, some kind of technology that the child said was for finding, but was now sleeping. Linda knew someone who might help. Her neighbor, Greg Winters, was a retired communications engineer who fixed old radios and TVs for fun. If anyone could figure out the device in Xyrex's arm, it was Greg, but that meant revealing Xyrex to someone else. There's a human who might help us fix your finding device, Linda told Xyrex. But we would need to trust him with your secret. What do you think? Xyrex was quiet for a long moment. Then, show me this human. I will see if good. The next day, Linda invited Greg over for coffee. He was a kind man in his 60s, with wild white hair and gentle eyes behind thick glasses. Xyrex hid in the spare room, peeking through a crack in the door. So Linda, Greg said, sipping his coffee, you said you needed help with some kind of device? Before Linda could answer, she felt Xyrex's voice in her mind. He is good. Heartlight is bright. Then, to both Linda's surprise and Greg's shock, Xyrex walked into the room. Greg's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. Well, he said after a moment, setting down his cup carefully. This is certainly not what I was expecting when you invited me over. Xyrex's skin turned a cautious yellow with green streaks. The child looked up at Greg and then at Linda. Greg, Linda said, this is Xyrex. Xyrex is lost and needs our help to get home. Greg Winters recovered from his shock quickly. After a lifetime working with technology, he had learned to adapt to surprises. An alien child in his neighbor's living room was certainly the biggest surprise yet, but his curiosity soon replaced his amazement. May I? He asked, gesturing toward Xyrex. The alien child nodded, and Greg knelt down to get a better look. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Xyrex's skin shifted to a calm blue with hints of curious yellow. The child extended a 4-fingered hand toward Greg's face. Xyrex can speak to you, Linda explained, in your mind. It might feel strange at first. Greg smiled. After 40 years working with radio waves, I'm open to new forms of communication. A moment later, his eyes widened. Oh, I heard that. Hello to you too, Xyrex. Linda explained about finding Xyrex on the beach and the device in the child's arm. Greg listened carefully, nodding. So this device is some kind of tracker or identifier. And it's not working? He asked. Xyrex rolled up the sleeve of the borrowed t-shirt Linda had given them. On the inside of the arm was a small bump under the skin. It glowed faintly when Xyrex touched it. Royal mark, Xyrex's voice said in both their minds. Find parent. With this, now sleeping, Greg adjusted his glasses. I have some equipment at my house that might help us understand it better. Nothing invasive, he added quickly, seeing Linda's concerned expression. Just some scanning tools I use for circuit boards. They agreed to meet at Greg's house the next day. As Greg was leaving, he turned to Linda. You know, if this child really is royalty from another planet, there might be people looking for them. Not all of them good people. Linda nodded. I know. That's why I've been careful. But Xyrex needs to find their parent, and I can't do that alone. That night, as Linda tucked Xyrex into bed, the child sent her a new image, a tall figure with shimmering skin that shifted colors like Xyrex's. The figure wore formal clothing and stood in a large room with both humans and other aliens. Is that your parent? Linda asked. Yes, parent, Varen. It was the first time Xyrex had shared a name. Varen, Linda repeated. We'll find Varen, I promise. Thousands of miles away, Varen woke from a dream about Xyrex. The connection felt stronger than before, almost as if her child had been trying to reach her. She sat up in her small bed, her skin glowing a soft, hopeful pink in the darkness. She had been on Earth for nearly a month now. The Coalition's search had officially ended 2 weeks ago. Only Frank still helped her, using his free time to follow leads and check reports of unusual sightings. Varen had taken a job in a late-night diner where the owner didn't ask questions about her appearance. With her stabilizer, she looked mostly human, though her movements were too fluid and her eyes too large. The customers assumed she was just from another country, not another planet. The work was beneath her former status, but it paid enough to keep her apartment. More importantly, it let her talk to humans from all walks of life. She showed them a picture of Xyrex, asking if they had seen her child. Most just shook their heads, but she kept asking. Someone somewhere must have seen something. The next morning, Greg's house looked like a small electronics museum. Old radios, televisions, and computers filled the shelves. His work table was covered with tools and circuit boards. Don't mind the mess, he told Linda and Xyrex. It's organized chaos. He had cleared a space and set up what looked like a modified ultrasound machine. This should let us see the device without hurting Xyrex. It's just using sound waves to create an image. Xyrex sat patiently as Greg moved the scanner over the arm. On a connected screen, they could see the outline of the device under the skin. It was small, about the size of a rice grain, but with a complex internal structure. Fascinating, Greg muttered. It looks like it has its own power source. See these tiny filaments? They're connecting to Xyrex's circulatory system somehow. Can you tell if it's working? Linda asked. Greg shook his head. Not just by looking, but I might be able to detect if it's sending out any kind of signal. He brought over another device, this one with a small dish antenna. After adjusting some dials, he frowned. Nothing. If it's transmitting, it's not on any frequency I can detect. Xyrex touched the bump again. Need ... energy. Special kind. What kind of energy? Greg asked. Images flashed in their minds. Crystals glowing with blue light, machines humming with power. I don't have anything like that, Greg said apologetically. But maybe we could jumpstart it with electricity? A very small amount, he added, seeing Linda's worried face. After careful consideration, they decided to try. Greg modified a small battery to deliver a gentle pulse to the area around the device. Xyrex didn't seem to feel pain, but the child's skin rippled with waves of green and yellow as the electricity flowed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the bump began to glow brighter. It pulsed once, twice, and then emitted a steady blue light. It's working! Linda exclaimed. Xyrex's eyes widened. Yes, calling now. Parent will hear. What they didn't know was that the device wasn't just sending a signal to Varen. It was broadcasting on a frequency that the Coalition monitored. In the embassy, alarms began to sound. Varen was wiping tables when her personal communicator, which she always kept with her, began to vibrate. She pulled it out, her heart racing when she saw the screen. Royal Identifier Signal detected. There was a map with a blinking dot in a coastal town called Bay Harbor, thousands of miles away. Xyrex was alive. And now, Varen knew where to find her child. She immediately called Frank. "I have a location," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I need to get there as fast as possible." Frank promised to arrange transportation. "I'll pick you up in 20 minutes. Pack what you need." Varine's skin glowed so brightly with joy that she had to turn up her stabilizer to hide it from the other customers. She told the diner owner she had a family emergency and left without waiting for his response. Nothing would stop her now. Unknown. To both Varine and the small group in Bay Harbor, others had detected the signal too. A black car with government plates was already heading toward Greg's house. Inside were agents who specialized in extraterrestrial encounters. Agents who believed that alien technology should belong to Earth, not to the visitors who brought it. As Linda, Greg, and Xyrex celebrated the activation of the tracking device. They didn't notice the car pulling up outside or the men in dark suits approaching the front door. In Xyrex's mind, a connection flared to life, a sense of Varen, distant but real, moving closer. At the same moment, danger approached just steps. Away, the child's skin flashed warning purple, just as a heavy knock sounded at the door. Greg peeked through the curtains, and his face turned serious. Government types, black suits, earpieces, the works. Linda pulled Xyrex close. "How did they find us so quickly?" "The signal," Greg whispered. "It must be stronger than we thought." The knocking came again, more insistent this time. A stern voice called out, "Federal agents." "Open the door, please." Xyrex's skin flashed deep purple with fear. In Linda's and Greg's minds, they heard the child's frightened voice. "Bad humans. Take me away. Study me." Linda made a quick decision. "Greg, stall them. Xyrex and I will go." "Out the back door." Greg nodded. "My car keys are on the hook by the back door." "Take my car. I'll tell them I was just experimenting with radio signals." Linda grabbed Xyrex's hand, and they slipped through the kitchen as Greg slowly walked to the front door. They heard him greeting the agents with forced cheerfulness as they escaped through. The back, Greg's old station wagon, started with a loud rumble. Linda winced at the noise, but pulled out of the driveway quickly. In the rearview mirror, she saw one of the agents pointing toward them. "We need to get out of Bay Harbor," she told Xyrex. "Do you still feel your parent?" Xyrex nodded, eyes closed. In concentration, parent coming, moving this way. Far but coming. That's good news. We just need to stay ahead of those agents until your parent finds us. Linda drove to the edge of town before taking a side road that led into the hills. Greg had once mentioned a fishing cabin he owned by a small lake. It wasn't much, but it might be a good place to hide for a while. Meanwhile, Varen and Frank were at the airport. Frank had pulled strings to get them on a small government plane heading toward the west coast. "Once we land, we'll still be about 2 hours from Bay Harbor," Frank explained. "I've arranged for a car to be waiting." Varen nodded, her skin shifting between excited gold and worried blue beneath her stabilizer. "The signal is still active, but it's moving. Xyrex is not staying in one place." Frank frowned. That could mean trouble. "Let me make some calls, see if anyone else is tracking the signal." His face grew grave as he spoke on his phone. When he hung up, he turned to Varen. "There's a government unit called the Extraterrestrial Research Division. They're not part of my agency, and they don't exactly play nice. They've dispatched agents to Bay Harbor. What do they want with my child?" Varen asked, though she feared. She already knew the answer. "Technology, biology, information," Frank said grimly. Anything they can get. We need to reach Xyrex before they do. The plane couldn't fly fast enough for Varen. Every minute felt like an hour. The signal from Xyrex's royal identifier remained steady, though it continued to move. At least her child was alive and conscious enough to keep running. Back in Bay Harbor, Greg was having a difficult time with the agents. They didn't believe his story about experimenting with radio frequencies. "Sir, our equipment detected a very specific alien signature coming from your house," said the lead agent, a stern woman with cold eyes. "Interfering with extraterrestrial communications is a federal offense." "I'm just a retired engineer playing with old equipment," Greg insisted. "I don't know anything about alien signatures." The agent's eyes narrowed. "Then you won't mind if we take a look around." They searched his house thoroughly, paying special attention to his workbench. One agent held up the modified scanner Greg had used on Xyrex. "This has been calibrated to read Nilaxian biosignatures," he said. "Standard equipment doesn't do that by accident." Greg tried to look confused, but he knew they weren't buying it. When they found strands of Xyrex's iridescent skin cells on a chair, the game was up. "Where is the alien, Mr. Winters?" The lead agent demanded. "And where is your neighbor, Linda Peterson?" Greg crossed his arms. "I have no idea what you're talking about." The lead agent sighed. "Take him in for questioning, and put out an APB on Linda Peterson and a juvenile Nilaxian." At the cabin by the lake, Linda was trying to make Xyrex comfortable. The place was dusty and basic, but it had electricity and running water. More importantly, it was hidden from the main road by trees. "How are you feeling?" she asked Xyrex. "Is the device still working?" Xyrex nodded. "Yes, parent closer now. Flying." Linda felt a mix of emotions. She was happy that Xyrex would soon be reunited with Van Ren, but she had grown attached to the child. These weeks together had changed her life. "When your parent comes, you'll go home, won't you? Back to your planet?" Xyrex's skin turned a sad shade of blue. "Yes, but remember Linda always." Linda smiled through the tears forming in her eyes. "I'll remember you too, always." Their moment was interrupted by the sound of vehicles on the gravel road leading to the cabin. Linda peeked out the window, and her heart sank. 2 black SUVs were approaching. "They found us," she whispered. "We need to hide," but there was nowhere to go. The cabin was surrounded by open space before the trees began. They would be seen if they tried to run. Xyrex closed his eyes, skin pulsing with deep concentration. Calling parent, stronger now. On the plane, Varen suddenly gasped. The connection with Xyrex flared in her mind, stronger than ever before. She could sense fear, desperation, and a clear image of humans approaching a small wooden building. "They're in danger," she told Frank. "How much longer?" "We land in 10 minutes, he said. "But we'll still need to drive to—" "No time," Varen interrupted. "I need to reach my child now." She closed her eyes and focused all her energy on the connection with Xyrex. Nilaxian parents could, in extreme circumstances, project their consciousness across distance to comfort their children. It was rarely done because it was physically draining, but Varen had no choice. In the cabin, Xyrex suddenly stood straighter. The child's skin began to glow with a bright pink light that filled the room. Linda stepped back in surprise as Xyrex spoke aloud for the first time, in a voice that sounded like a blend of the child's and another's. "I am Ambassador Varen of the Nilaxian High Council," the voice said. "My child is under the protection of the Galactic Coalition. Any harm to this child will be considered an act of war against our people." Outside, the agents had exited their vehicles and were approaching the cabin when the light from within became visible even through the windows. They paused, uncertain. Inside, Xyrex Varen turned to Linda. Brave human, you have cared for my child when I could not. And Nilaxian, people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Linda nodded, too amazed to speak. Help is coming, the voice continued. You must be strong for just a little longer. The pink glow faded, and Zyrex swayed on their feet. Linda caught the child before they fell. Zyrex, are you okay? The child's eyes fluttered open. Parent came. In mind, very tired now. Outside, the agents had reached the door. One of them pounded on it. Federal agents. Open up. Linda held Zyrex close and whispered, Whatever happens, I won't let them take you. Miles away, as the plane began its descent, Varen collapsed in her seat. Frank caught her, alarmed. What happened? Are you all right? Varine's skin was pale, almost translucent. I reached Zyrex. Warned the humans. But now we must hurry. My child is in danger, and I have little strength left. As soon as the plane touched down, Frank helped Varen to the waiting car. She directed him using the signal from the Royal Identifier, which was now stationary. The signal led them to a rural area outside Bay Harbor, toward a small lake in the Yase. Hills. Faster, Varen urged. They're there now. I can feel it. Linda stood in front of Zyrex as the cabin door burst open. 4 agents in black suits entered, their faces stern and eyes hidden behind dark glasses. The lead agent, a tall woman with her hair pulled back tightly, scanned the room and fixed. Her gaze on Zyrex. Miss Peterson, step away from the alien, she ordered. It needs to come with us for examination and debriefing. Linda didn't move. His name is Zyrex, not it, and Zyrex isn't going anywhere with you. The agent's expression didn't change. This isn't a request, Miss Peterson. The alien represents valuable scientific knowledge. Its parent is a diplomat who abandoned her post. We have authority to take custody of any unaccompanied extraterrestrial minors. Zyrex is not unaccompanied, Linda said firmly. I've been caring for him. You have no legal standing. Now please, step aside or we'll be forced to remove you. Zyrex's skin flickered between purple fear and a determined golden orange. The child moved to stand beside Linda, taking her hand. We stay together, Zyrex said in the minds of everyone present. The agents looked startled to hear the voice in their heads. The lead agent recovered quickly. Interesting. Telepathic abilities. She made a note on her tablet. All the more reason for proper study. 2 agents moved forward. Linda braced herself, not sure what she could do against federal agents, but unwilling to give up without a fight. Zyrex's hand tightened around hers. Just then, they heard the sound of a car speeding up the gravel road. It screeched to a halt outside, and doors slammed. Footsteps pounded up to the cabin. Federal agents, nobody move. A new voice commanded. Everyone turned to see Frank standing in the doorway, his badge held high. Behind him was a figure that made Zyrex's skin glow with bright pink joy. Parent. Zyrex cried out telepathically. Varen stepped into the cabin, her stabilizer turned off. Her true Nilaxian form was magnificent tall, with skin that shimmered with patterns of light and emotion. Even the agents seemed momentarily awed. I am Ambassador Valmain of the Nilaxian High Council, she said, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. And that is my child you are threatening. The lead agent from the first group stepped forward. Former ambassador. You were stripped of your title when you refused to return to your planet. You have no diplomatic standing here. Frank moved to stand beside Varen. Actually, she does. I just received confirmation from my director. The Coalition has reinstated Ambassador Varine's position, effective immediately. She is here under diplomatic protection. He handed his phone to the lead agent, who read the message with a deepening frown. This changes nothing about our authority over unidentified alien technology, she insisted, but her voice held less conviction. The technology you're referring to is a royal identifier, a sacred part of Nilexian culture, Veyron said. Attempting to remove or study it would violate at least 6 articles of the Earth Coalition Treaty. While the adults argued, Xyrix let go of Linda's hand and slowly walked toward Veyron. The room fell silent as the child approached. Veyron knelt down, her skin matching the joyful pink of her child's. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then Veyron opened her arms, and Xyrix rushed into them. Their skin colors swirled and merged where they touched, creating patterns of light that seemed to dance across their bodies. No words were spoken aloud, but everyone in the room could feel the powerful emotions flowing between parent and child. It was a reunion that transcended language, and even species. Linda felt tears on her cheeks. She was happy for Xyrix. Truly she was, but she would miss the child terribly. The lead agent cleared her throat, breaking the moment. This is all very touching, but we still need to. You need to leave, Frank interrupted. Now, or I'll be reporting interference with a diplomatic mission to your superiors. A tense standoff followed, but eventually the first group of agents withdrew, their faces tight with frustration. Frank escorted them outside to ensure they actually left. When they were gone, Veyron finally released Xyrix and turned to Linda. You are the human who found my child, who cared for Xyrix. Linda nodded. I found him injured on the beach. I couldn't just leave him there. Veyron approached Linda slowly, her movements fluid and graceful. She stopped in front of the human, nurse, and did something unexpected. She bowed deeply. My people have a saying, Veyron said as she straightened. The one who saves a child saves an entire future. You have saved not just my child's future, but mine as well. I owe you a debt I can never repay. Linda shook her head. You don't owe me anything. I did what anyone would do. No, Veyron said firmly. Not anyone. Most humans would have called authorities. You chose compassion over fear. That is rare and precious on any world. Frank returned to the cabin. The agents are leaving, but they won't give up easily. We should go. They gathered what few belongings they had and left the cabin. As they drove back toward Bay Harbor, Xyrix sat between Linda and Veyron, holding both their hands. What happens now? Linda asked. I must return to the embassy, Veyron explained. With my position reinstated, I can request proper protection for Xyrix, and we must secure Greg's release. Will you go back to your planet? Linda tried to keep the sadness from her voice. Veyron was quiet for a moment. Eventually, yes. But not yet. This experience has shown me that there is important work to be done here on Earth. The fear those agents showed, the desire to study rather than understand, that is what I must help change. She looked at Linda. And I will need help from humans, who see us as people, not specimens. Would you consider a position at the embassy? As a cultural liaison and medical consultant? Linda was stunned. Me? But I'm just a nurse. You are the human who brought my child home, Veyron said simply. There is no one I would trust more. 2 months later, the Galactic Coalition Embassy hosted a special ceremony. Ambassador Veyron stood before a gathering of humans and aliens, her skin glowing with formal gold and blue patterns. Beside her stood Xyrix, now wearing the traditional robes of Nilexian royalty. On her other side stood Linda Peterson, dressed in the blue uniform of the embassy's new medical and cultural exchange program. Today, we celebrate a new beginning, Van announced. A true exchange between our worlds, built not on fear or suspicion, but on compassion and understanding. She turned to Linda and placed a shimmering circlet on her head. Linda Peterson, you are now officially recognized as a friend of Nilex. the highest honor our people can bestow upon a non-Nilaxian. When you found a lost child on your shore, you did not see an alien. You saw someone who needed help. In doing so, you taught us all what humanity truly means." The audience applauded as Linda, Greg, and Frank were each honored for their roles in saving Xyrex. In the back of the room, even Lieutenant Collins smiled. That night, as Linda settled into her new quarters at the embassy, there was a soft knock at her door. She opened it to find Xyrex standing there. "Cannot sleep," the child's voice said in her mind. "Too happy." Linda smiled and invited Xyrex in. They sat together by the window, looking up at the stars. "Your parents' star is out there somewhere," Linda said. "Someday you'll go home to it." Xyrex's skin turned a thoughtful blue. "Have 2 homes now, and 2 families." As if on cue, Varen appeared at the open door. "I thought I might find you here," she said to her child with gentle understanding. She joined them at the window, and together, the alien diplomat, her royal child, and the human nurse who had brought them back together, they gazed up at the vast universe that had once separated them, but now united them as family.